Extra, extra, come learn all about it. Brentwood woman sentenced to 81 months in prison for serial tax fraud, wire fraud, and aggravated identity theft. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about a lady named Jehoadan Wilson. Yeah, I should have known better. Her name, Jehoadan Wilson. Guess what? She stole from me too. Let's read about how the judge smoked her boots. That's right, y'all heard me correctly. This woman on the screen, she stole from me too. Now this was many, many years ago, probably closer to 20. Hell, it might be just over 20. Bottom line, the bitch took my taxes too. Ran off with them. I'm gonna tell you my story before I get into the story on how the judge smoked her boots recently. Now, I've known Jehoadan and her family for many, many, many years. When I was around 19 years old, I actually worked in her mother's daycare center. And so, like I said, I've known her for years, right? She's actually related to my kids. So one tax season, I decided to use her business. You know, she's a member of, the family so-called or whatnot. I've known her for years. Why not allow her to do my taxes? She has an open business. The business is legit. It's been up and running. So I gave her a shot. So I gave everything she needed, all of my information and everything. Everything was good. And so a few weeks went by, okay, it's to be expected. Another week or two went by, and finally, it must have been a couple of months. I contacted the IRS directly. See, Jehoadan had been giving me the runaround. Yeah, she like to do that type stuff. Anyway, so I contacted IRS and inquired about my refund. Maybe a couple of weeks later, I received a document in the mail from the IRS with a picture of a check that they were supposed to have given to me, and it was signed. And in this letter from the IRS, it said, basically the letter said, are you saying that you did not receive nor cash this check? I was on fire. Let me tell you what I did. So I already knew right then it was going to be a bunch of red tape for me to get my money. But as I looked at the document that they sent me, which was a photocopy of the check front and back, I noticed that it had been cashed, but not in a traditional way. You see, this check had been taken by a third party to a car shop in East Oakland. Yeah, down there off East 12th. The nerve, child. Anyway, this check was signed over to that shop, and basically it was used to do work on multiple cars. Child, I called my best friend. Her name is Sasha. Yeah, I told her what was going on, and I was on my way, honey, and we were headed to Oakland. Who the fuck they think they playing with? Damn right. Ran straight down on East 12th, walked into the building with all of my senses, because I really had no reason to be upset, because I knew I was going to get my money, and I knew I was going to get my money that goddamn day. So I walked in to the business with a copy of the check that I had received from the IRS along with my driver's license. Oh yeah, honey, I was about business that day. Asked for the manager, the store owner, whomever was in charge. And just coincidentally, I was speaking to the owner, child, with his hands was all greased up or whatever. I told him what was going on, told him that I was the rightful owner of that check, showed him the information that I received from IRS, and I told him if he didn't count out all of my money right then, that I would make sure that he and his business would be audited by the IRS. Oh, you know he didn't want them problems. He instantly apologized all over the place. And what he did was, he didn't have all the cash that was on that check, right? So what he did was, he wrote me a check. Oh, he thought I was crazy. I thought he was playing with me. I took the check and walked it right across the street to the bank. Absolutely, the so-called his bank. I wanted to see if that account was actually active. And if it wasn't, I was going to walk right back over to here and smoke his boots. Needless to say, the check cleared. I had my money. Everything was everything. And I just knew I wasn't fucking with that bitch no more. I wasn't fucking with her. And the third person, I actually knew her too. Oh yeah, I saved her a few times, had her staying in my house and all that old stuff. This goes to show you, you never know who you can trust. At this point, goddammit, I don't trust no goddamn body. But let's get to the point of why Jehoiada Wilson got her boots smoked. Let me tell y'all what the heifer did. I didn't have to do any karma to her. Karma comes around to everybody. I didn't have to go over there acting a fool, trying to fight her, trying to fight the third person or whatnot. I took my ass down there, let that man know what time it was, showed him the documentation from the IRS, and let him know it was going to be up if he didn't cooperate. Now, I was shocked but not surprised when I found out recently that Jehoiada had been placed into custody for 81 months. That's a long goddamn time. Let's get into the article, y'all. Brentwood woman sentenced to 81 months in prison for serial tax fraud, wire fraud, and aggravated identity theft. Now, this happened out of Oakland, honey. Oakland, California. Let's go. Jehoiada Wilson was sentenced in federal court today to 81 months for filing false tax claims, wire fraud, and aggravated identity theft in a tax fraud scheme that caused losses of $902,040, announced United States Attorney Stephanie Hines. Now, the sentence was handed down by United States District Judge John S. Tiger. Wilson, 41, of Brentwood, was convicted by a federal jury on September 28, 2021, of 5 counts of filing a false tax claim, 5 counts of wire fraud, and 5 counts of aggravated identity theft. Trial evidence demonstrated that Wilson obtained personal identifying information from scores of unsuspecting individuals through lies and through misrepresentations, and then filed fraudulent tax returns in their names. Now, the evidence presented at trial showed Wilson perpetrated her scheme by obtaining victims' social security numbers, either by manipulation into providing them information under false pretenses, or by obtaining their social security numbers without their knowledge. Stealing. Wilson then filed tax returns in each victim's name that contained false information and that fraudulently claimed a tax return. In each return, Wilson requested the tax refund be deposited between at least 2 bank accounts, one or both of which were Wilson's personal bank accounts. How dumb can you be? In sum, Wilson filed fraudulent tax returns for people without their knowledge or consent, honey. That caused the federal government to pay tax refunds not owed and to deposit those refunds into bank accounts controlled by Wilson. Now, at trial, one victim testified that she provided her personal identifying information to Wilson with the understanding that Wilson, who presented herself as a legitimate tax preparer, would assist in filing her tax return. Now, unbeknownst to the victim, Wilson made numerous false statements about the victim's employment, expenses, and income in her tax return, which fraudulently claimed a tax refund. Wilson also requested, without the victim's knowledge or consent, that approximately half of the tax refund be deposited into Wilson's bank account. In another instance, an elderly male fell victim to Wilson's scheme when Wilson or one of her associates, pay close attention, one of her associates visited the woman's retirement community and convinced her to provide her identifying information to obtain free money from an alleged federal government Obama stimulus plan. Oh my God, today, in my whiny voice, honey, Wilson used the personal information to file a tax return on the elderly woman's behalf and without her knowledge. The tax return, replete with false information, generated a fraudulent tax refund. And Wilson directed approximately half of the refund into her own bank account. Wilson victimized a third person, according to the trial evidence, by obtaining the victim's identifying information and filing a false tax return in his name while he was incarcerated and without his knowledge. I'ma pause right there. Hey y'all, I got a little present for you. I got the whole video. I got the court case where Jehoiada Wilson was drugged in the courthouse by her own cousin. She did the same thing to him. That's a bonus. I'll drop the link, but here we go. Let's keep going. Now, Wilson also exploited a fourth and a fifth victim using a similar pattern of obtaining their identifying information, filing false tax returns in their names without their knowledge or consent, and causing portions of that tax refund to be deposited into her own personal bank account. Evidence presented at trial also established that search warrants executed at Wilson's home and office turned up numerous additional documents containing identifying information of victims, including copies of driver's license and social security cards. Now, in its memorandum, y'all know I can't pronounce none of this shit. Where's Monica Mo Justice when I need her? Monica! What's MEMORANDUM? Y'all wait for that. But this was filed for sentencing. The government described that Wilson's fraud was so pervasive that in just one tax year, 2011, she victimized approximately 388 people. Her fraudulent tax claims caused a loss to the federal government of $902,040 in that tax year alone. In that tax year alone, let me tell you something. Okay, this woman built a home from the ground up. Big, beautiful home, 5-6 bedrooms. She had pictures and everything up on Instagram, but that's been taken off since she's been arrested. United States District Judge John S. Tiger also ordered, in addition to the 81 months imprisonment, that Wilson pay restitution in the amount of $902,040. The sentence included a 3-year period of supervision for Wilson following her release from prison. Wilson was remanded into custody at the end of the sentencing hearing and begins serving her sentence immediately. Honey, that karma came around and slapped her in her head. You know, it is sad because she has 2 children. They're not babies. I think her youngest is in high school or may have even graduated recently. But it's just a shame all the years that she's going to miss out with her kids, all behind greed, manipulation, everything. Okay, you all, I'll talk to you next time. This is Miss Indy, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.